Welcome, not the Top 20 podcast, the Monday pod, running through a busy weekend of EFL action. I'm Ali Maxwell, got George Elek with me. The transfer window's closed. And what a run we had on NTT20.com. Since the start of July, writing up over 750 done deals.
How many do you think you did?
Great question. 300, I'd say.
That's a lot.
You?
20.
Yeah.
Well, no, hold on.
But all the best ones.
Oxford made 16.
Yeah.
So that's 16. And then probably about 20 more on deadline day.
Incredible time we had on Friday covering Deadline Day. The Deadline Day live blog, if you read through it from the start, takes over an hour to read through. Massive thank you to Sam, to Hugh, to Matt, to Craig for being part of that team. And hopefully all of you who are paid subscribers to NTT20.com had your summer enhanced by our, we think, unprecedented EFL transfer window coverage. But now, for some months, we can really focus on football and the football that's being played on the pitch, and that is also quite a relief. We'll start in the Championship, where we still, after 4 game weeks, have 5 teams without a defeat and 5 teams without a win. We had 2 examples of one of either side playing against each other this weekend. Portsmouth losing 3-1 to Sunderland. George, the only team with a 100% record still in the EFL.
Yeah, I mean, they are looking really good. I mean, it was interesting. Pompey came into the game off the back of 3 really impressive results against very good teams. There's no denying that the fixture computer has been particularly harsh to Pompey, but being unbeaten off the back of Leeds, Luton and Borough was very impressive. However, the flip side of that was that the underlying numbers were incredibly poor, and they were the team kind of, if you looked at shot maps and shot data and the rest of it, Pompey were the side who were running a bit hot. And then, you know, on the face of it, when the fixtures come out, Sunderland at home probably looks like the first one where Pompey can be like, right, this is a game where we can probably not expect something, but might be a bit of a leveler playing field. However, the way that Sunderland have started the season means that absolutely wasn't the case, and the way the game progressed meant that absolutely wasn't the case. Where this is 4 out of 4 for Sunderland in terms of turning up in games and just being comfortably and by far the better side. They were helped in times, you know, the first goal that they scored, the Swanson own goal, was absolutely ridiculous.
3 of the 4 goals in this game had strong comedy value, I would suggest, including Sunderland's first and only concession of the season so far at the end, when Luke O'Nien was bored of keeping clean sheets,
so
just
weird.
Scored a diving header. But Pompey's first goal, hilarious. They go close to scoring. Mayenda with a shot saved by the keeper, and then a clearance from, I think it was Williams, just cannons into Swanson and flies in.
But also what's funny is that there's no one near either of them.
Yeah.
So it's just 2 of them in the 6-yard box playing pinball with each other and scoring an own goal.
And then even the second goal was quite funny in that Mayenda gets on the end of a chance and sort of toe pokes it, is trickling towards goal. Brown's on the deck. I'm not sure why. He's fallen over at some point, and he manages to sort of poke it in.
I was really watching this game back. I already knew that Brown had scored that goal, and live I couldn't understand how it was his goal, because I couldn't even see him buried under the bodies. But yeah, he got the second, and then Mundell with a really nicely taken goal after some good work from Mayenda, who, he gets 2 assists. The first is basically a shot that's diverted in by Brown, but the second one really good, carrying the ball out of midfield and slips in. Mundell, who fires in at the near post this time. We said that his first goal after Clark left was a Clark-esque goal. This was the opposite, where he went around the outside and managed to fire it in at the near post, albeit you'd think that Norris probably will feel like he shouldn't have been beaten there. So, the 09 own goal in injury time takes a bit of gloss off the result. You can see the frustration from Sunderland players that they didn't keep a clean sheet, because I think it would have been a perfect performance had they done so. And, they were yet to concede a goal in the league so far this season. So there'll be some frustration they weren't able to make it 4 games in a row without conceding. But it's just another game where Sunderland have been miles better than their opposition in the Championship. And this, away at the League One champions, who, as I say, hadn't been beaten yet, is another incredibly impressive result. And we're seeing a lot of Pompey fans coming away from the game saying, Wow, that Chris Riggs quite good, isn't he?
Yeah, what a tackle he made in the build-up to one of Sunderland's goals. Flew in, but fair and clean, and showing that tenacity that we talked about when we picked him for our 21 under 21 over the summer, and basically anointed him as potentially the current EFL player with the highest ceiling, because it's not just about the quality that he has on the ball, which he has shown throughout the season so far, and did so again here with some really incisive forward passing. It's also that willingness to pull his sleeves up and get down and dirty, which I think is pretty exceptional. I mean, you could say the same about Job, who is 1 year older than him, who played in a more defensive midfield role here with Neil being out, and no issues. Job will play wherever, it seems, and will be able to impact the game. In this game, Fotmob has him joint most recoveries in the match, doing well in his duels, a couple of tackles as well, just doing whatever the team needs. And yeah, I mean, Regis Lebris is having a hell of a time.
I thought you said we're saying his S's.
Yeah, Regis Lebris
cool.
is having an unbelievable start to life as Sunderland manager. All of his decisions so far are looking genius, are looking like they are entirely suited to the team that he has at his disposal. And this was another example of that. Mayenda heavily involved, which is really pleasing. Sunderland's number 9, genuinely involved in play, involved in goals, either scoring or being part of the move and the build-up. Really important, and a reason why they look so much better than they did last season already. Leeds 2, Hull 0. Another example of a team still yet to taste defeat against one winless. And we saw a nice assist, not from Largi Ramazani, but from Manor Solomon, who was one of Leeds' other late acquisitions in the window, one of Leeds' other replacements for Somerville and co. And, I mean, we saw what we have been told about Solomon, what we saw when he was on loan at Fulham in the Premier League, and in very small flashes when he played for Spurs. It was a nice dribble, good close control, very hard to tackle when you've got someone who can move the ball at speed but keep it so close to them. And he dug out a really good cross with his left foot as well. Joseph getting in front of his defender with a clinical finish at the near post. First league goal of the season. All that sort of poacher's instinct that we've been told Joseph has showed off there. They scored a nice goal on the counter for 2-0 as well. A pretty routine home win for Leeds, who have had a good few weeks on the pitch. And we're still yet to see what Hull are about, really. And you might say, well, it's fine to be patient, but I'm feeling really underwhelmed and a bit sort of let down, and I'm not sure yet if they will ever amount to anything at this rate. It's very early to say that. They left their business late. 5 of the 6 players playing in front of the defence, so 5 of the 6 midfielders and attackers are new signings. So, you know, it's fair to be patient and expect a period of gelling, but it's just wasted time for me. And this is why you can't convince me that the people running the club, that the man with the big ideas and the cash at the top of the club really know how to actually run a championship club smartly to give it the best chance to win. I feel like the decisions that he has made, some of them managerial, a lot of them in terms of the squad building and the recruitment and the timing of it and the nature of it. You know, the phrase fur coat and no knickers kind of springs to mind. There's all these players, and they've been churning every single window up to this point, and they still don't look like a particularly strong team, or necessarily the team that we're led to believe that they want to be.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, I definitely agree. And you look at the starting lineup from their game against Leeds, and yeah, there are a lot of new players in there. You know, Malem, Zambrano, Uma, Badia, all starting. The only thing I would say that's positive about Hull still, and I agree that they are completely different to what I thought we were going to get. Like, this is not heart attack football, basically, unless you're just a Hull fan, because it's just not very enjoyable to watch because they're not really creating anything and they're losing games. Is it of the kind of proven quality that they have brought in? We haven't really seen them yet. Like, we know that Casey Palmer is a very good attacking player in this league, I would say. We know that Cody Drammer is a very good attacking fullback in this league who's yet to play. We know that Carl Rushworth is a keeper who should come in and improve them straight away. Abu Kamara is someone who showed at League One last season that he should be a massive player for them in the final third. So there are still, you know, of the players that are playing, they're generally the ones that we don't know that much about, who aren't looking particularly good. Whereas at least there are 3, 4, 5 players who will be starting players for them, who are kind of known quantities, which should improve.
We're almost 10% through the season already.
No, I agree.
There's like a whole 11 of players that haven't been able to impact the team yet. And
But part of that's just timing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's timing, but that's poor decision making.
No, I agree.
To be this delayed, to be waiting for all of this, and I suppose it can be compounded. Maybe it won't be, but if the results continue to be poor, how long does the manager get?
No, I agree.
This is an owner that's proven himself to be fairly impulsive. He sacked a manager purely on style of play, in his own words. So if you then sack the manager after 8 weeks of the campaign because you're winless in 6, 7, 8, then you're really in a mess.
But that's, I'd almost say you like skirted the issue there, where you've got an owner who's sacked a manager because of style of play. Like, even if you ignore results, do you think Ashen's watching this and thinking, yes, this is what I wanted? Like, there's also an issue there where if Hull are losing games but also not showing the attacking style or the exciting style that the owner wanted, and that's another big issue. Like, I definitely agree, and there are big alarm bells. All I'm saying is, if you're a Hull fan listening to this or watching them at the moment, at least there is like something on the horizon, something to hang your hope on, that things might change, because you have got players who I would say are the ones that, from my point of view, are the least risky, who've like shown some level of form recently in the Championship or League One, who are still to come into the side.
Yeah. Millwall 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0. That's more like it. That is more like it from Millwall. This was Millwall at home in the Championship, dominating and winning and creating a fantastic atmosphere and doing it in a way that seemed perfect and very Millwall and very, very enjoyable to watch. It took them until the 58th minute to go ahead, but they were well on top all through that point. 12 shots to 2 in the first hour of the game. And they went ahead through a goal scored by their new striker, rather one of their 2 new strikers, Josh Coburn, signed on deadline day on loan from Middlesbrough. He benefited from great work from Duncan Watmore, who, I'm going to be a bit flippant here because I haven't gone through the whole league, but I'd like to say Watmore might have been the best attacker in the Championship so far. He's got 4 goals in 4 games. He's got the assist here as well. It's not just the finishing and the creativity that we've seen, but his dribbling, his movement off the ball, his constant movement and the speed of it and his work rate. He's been absolutely brilliant, and I'm pleased that it takes a Millwall win for him to sort of get his flowers, so to speak, because previously it was in losing games. But he was brilliant and set up Coburn. He then scored the second, bundling in a set piece that had gone all the way through. And Jake Cooper headed home at the far post for a very comfortable, dominant Millwall win. Great for Coburn to score in his debut. We've mentioned Macaulay Langstaff and the awkwardness of his arrival at the club, and his manager's like really outward protestations that his strikers weren't the ones he wanted and he needed new ones. He got 2 on deadline day, Coburn and Mihailo Ivanovic, 19-year-old Serbian striker, scored 9 in the Serbian top flight last season. Millwall have broken their transfer record for Ivanovic. So Harris has got the strikers that he asked for, got the big win. That should calm things down for now, or at least so I thought. And then this morning the club posted this gif of Harris clapping the fans, normal, slapping the badge, normal, and then was that a little wave at the end there?
Is there a family member in the crowd?
Could be. But I think admin's got to know what he's doing there. Fans wondering if that was a subliminal message. So that was
interestingly the last time that he left Millwall, he basically walked away saying, "I think it's better for all parties if I'm not here anymore." So right. There's a bit of history in that.
You can't say that after such a good performance. You can't think that. He finally got what he was expecting from his team. On the other end of it was Wednesday. And you want to talk about Sheffield Wednesday, and in doing so, you're going to hit the big green button marked FOTMob Corner.
Yeah, get out your phone or your iPad, hit the green button on it and get FOTMob up, and let's join me in a bit of a chat around Sheffield Wednesday, because, the Danny Röhl era so far has been a roller coaster, where, roller coasters generally, when you get on them, it starts really. You just go up and up and up and up and up, and it's quite slow. You're just on an upward ascent the whole time, and that's what it's been so far for Wednesday. Yeah. But we're now on our way down, and it's time to work out: is this one of those roller coasters where it goes up and comes down very quickly, and that's it, or are we going to have some ups and downs coming in the future? Nice. Because there are real warning signs as to what's going on there right now. Well, I can't really remember a drop off that has been so obvious from game to game as Wednesday right now. So back end of last season, Royal comes in from Cisco, does an incredible job to turn around a side that are destined to drop back into League One, completely revolutionises the style of play, gets players playing at a completely different level, and catapults them up into mid-table and safety. Suddenly, he's got the highest stock in probably any manager in the Championship. We totally buy into that and agree with it. And on opening day, they put in one of the most dominant displays we've seen in the Championship, maybe ever, against Argyle, where they win 4-0. 4.68 expected goals that day. So this wasn't like a fluky 4-0 win where the finishing was good. That has to be one of the highest XG figures for an individual team in the Championship in the last few years, as per FOTMob. That came from 31 shots against Argyle. So in one game there, you got 4.68 XG in 31 shots. Now I'm going to go through the attacking side, then you're going to take over and have a look at the defensive side of things. But in 3 games since then, Wednesday have lost all 3 games. They lost 4-0 against Sunderland, 2-0 against Leeds, and 3-0 against Millwall. Now, with Sunderland and Leeds, you can probably say, look at the opposition. They're probably the first and second best teams in the league this season. Certainly 2 of the top 5. But then to go to Millwall, who are struggling, and be dispatched the way that they were dispatched has to be a real concern. So let's look at the underlying numbers. Like, was this a case where Wednesday are still playing fairly well and not getting the results? Or has there been a drop-off in terms of what they're actually doing? In those 3 games, total, they've created, as per FOTMob, 0.97 expected goals in the 3 games. And that's from 21 shots. So a bit of like stupid maths, but just to show how much of a drop-off that is. If they were to continue at that rate, that rate of chance creation from now and carry on going, it will take them 14 and a half games to create the same expected goals number as they did against Argyle in 90 minutes on opening day. So that shows you like the marked drop off from early on in that time. Then you look at the actual amount of shots they're taking and the quality of chance per shot. Where against Argyle, from those 31 shots at 4.68, that equates to 0.15 expected goals per shot. Since then, it's been 0.05 expected goals per shot. So again, not only are they having fewer opportunities, but actually when they're taking them, effectively they're from range. Like 25 of their 31 shots against Argyle were inside the box. Since then, it's been about 50% of their shots. So in every facet, the attacking threat has just completely dropped off. Like, I wonder if, possibly because they play Sunderland and Leeds back to back, there's been a bit of a crisis of confidence suddenly from an attacking standpoint, which has impacted their performance against Millwall. It's obviously too short a period of time, 3 games, to start throwing around any kind of terminal verdict on what's going on. But I do think this is going to be interesting, where we know that there are a lot of managers who are very good when things are good, who really struggle to work out what to do when things turn. And I do wonder with Royal, like opening day against Argyle was probably as easy. They're now favourites for relegation and favourites to finish bottom, probably the easiest game they could have had. But you do wonder if these teams have been doing their homework on what Danny Royal did last season at Sheffield Wednesday and worked out how to nullify that threat. Because right now, it's proper check them for a pulse time in terms of their attacking output.
Yeah, and they've conceded 9 goals in those 3 games. So your focus on the fact that they haven't scored one is fair, but it's a massive issue at the other end as well. That's why these scorelines are quite drastic. And I think the first thing I'll say defensively is that there are some reasons why I feel quite bad about criticising the back 4 and the goalkeeper here, because what's quite notable watching the last 3 games back is how often they are giving the ball away in the attacking third or the middle third, and within 5 seconds just, in a massively urgent situation defensively, because that they don't have numbers at the back. And this is both a style of play factor. They look to get the ball forward quickly. They space the pitch massively, so there are big gaps between the players when they have the ball as they're trying to stretch the play. When they lose it, it just means that unless they can get back into position quickly, there's a lot of gaps for the opposition to play into. And there's a player profile issue here as well, I think, where at the very top of the pitch, whether it's been Ugbo or Lowe, or as the case was, both on the weekend, neither of those players as their central strikers, the focal point of their attack for the quick forward passing, neither of them have much of a profile when it comes to holding the ball up. They are, good finishers. They have lots of strings to their bow, when it comes to just getting the ball and looking after it, securing it so that the team can then attack in the final third and do their thing. Neither of them great on that front. They have wingers who are both like high volume dribblers, again, more so than kind of players that like to combine and interact with teammates in particular. And so the ball's coming back at them very, very quickly at the moment because they're not keeping it at the top end of the pitch. And because Bannon is one of two central midfielders, and he is, a phrase they use in basketball is a turnstile on defence, because he can't cover ground quickly, he can't win loose balls, he doesn't really win 50-50 challenges either. So you lose the ball at the top of the pitch, your front four are all up there, your first midfielder is easily bypassed, and then you've just got 5 defenders back coping with the whole opposition running onto you. And it basically looks from the last few games that if you're the opposition, you know that in your defensive third and the middle third, if you can put together 3 good passes, like a 1-2 and then 1 good forward pass, you're in. You've got a dangerous attack. And so their defenders don't have the comfort of numbers defensively. And I forgive them some of the goals that they've scored, that back four. But they've also had an issue with set pieces. Sunderland's first and third goals, Millwall's second goal as well, Jake Cooper heading in at the back post for their third goal. These are reasons to criticise the back four and the goalkeeper as well, because they need to be more dominant defending their own box. And so there's 2 major issues that are causing their defence to come under a lot of stress and overwhelming them at the moment, and have led to them conceding 9 goals in their last 3 games. If you go on FotMob and look at James Beadle's shots faced map, you feel pretty bad for him because he's conceded 9 goals. I think 5 of them have been from inside the 6-yard box already after 4 games. It's just way too much, and there's a lot for Earl to sort out. And we both think he's got pretty good pedigree, and it's not to say he won't find answers to those problems, and he's got an international break now to do that. So great to be able to dig deep into a team that we find interesting at the moment for, unfortunately, the wrong reasons. Great to be able to use the FotMob app to get so many stats and visualizations to help with that. Do go and download the FotMob app. The link is in the bio. It's not just for live scores, although it's got you covered for that as well. So much other stats and data points on the app as well. Chris, who's on the squad, said, I've been using it for a week now, so I can say FotMob is a great app.
Correct.
That's exactly what we wanted and expected from this partnership. A couple of big home wins, George. One of them was Oxford 3, Blackburn 1.
Yes. 2
home wins for Yellows to kick off the campaign. 2 away defeats. Interested in your thoughts on some of the Yellow legends, but also possibly more interested in your thoughts on Preston North End, given you were at the game.
It was such a weird game where when the team sheet came out for Oxford and we saw that McEachran was in for Volks, my assumption, and I think probably what was the case, is that Des Buckingham and the Oxford's coaching staff assumed that we would see Preston drop off, basically, as we saw Heckingbottom's Blades drop off quite a lot of the time. And it couldn't have been more wrong, where
went for you.
The Preston press for the first 15 minutes was like, I've never seen anything like it. And not only, it's very rare to see a team press where basically the whole forward line are about 6'4".
Yeah,
it was
they are big, aren't they?
Unbelievable. And when you think Elliot Moore was out for Oxford, it meant that Sam Long was playing right side centre back. So you had Reese and Keane on Brown and Moore.
Yeah.
Sorry, on Brown and Long. You had Potts basically pinning Bennett, who's again, he's got about a foot on him. It was like absolutely ridiculous. It was like men against boys. And we've all been there watching your team where you sit down and after like 10-15 minutes, you're just like, I just want to be anywhere else than this. Like I just don't want to sit here and watch us get beat 3, 4, 5. And that's what it felt like it was going to be. The goal came from a really sloppy pass out from Bennett, but again, it was just the relentless press from Preston that caused the mistake. The ball in from Potts, the first shot was ricocheted out and re-stuck it in. They nearly went 2-0 up. They deserved to go 2-0 up. I honestly think if they'd been 3-0 up after 15 minutes, it would have kind of reflected pretty accurately the balance of play. But there was a moment where, and it's been suggested that it may have been a kind of Graham Wesley-esque drinks break, where an Oxford player went down and Buckingham called the players over and made a tweak. What that tweak was, or I don't really know. I was sitting behind the goal, I couldn't really see. It felt like maybe our fullbacks went a bit higher and therefore wouldn't get pinned so easily and stopped Preston from being able to press so high. I also think probably the fact that Preston aren't necessarily a side who are well drilled, and pressing that aggressively probably means that they got a bit tired and couldn't really keep up the intensity. Freddie Woodman with a just a proper rush of blood to the head moment. A brilliant clip ball from Josh McEachran, who was very good, and Woodman came to come and claim it and was just miles out of his goal, but nowhere near the ball, and Harris was able to head the ball in.
Bit of a breakdown in the defensive line either way, because although it was a great pass from McEachran, if Woodman had stayed on his line, Harris is still getting that ball, and will be 8 yards out with a free shot goal.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting that it was basically Goodrum and Harris against Lindsay and I don't know who the other defender was in the box, maybe Story. And it felt like even though their two players had about a foot on both of them, it was those two kind of queuing up to head it in. And then after that, I mean, maybe it's a crisis of confidence or whatever, but Oxford managed to kind of turn the screw and become the more dominant team within the game. Tyler Goodrum with a brilliant goal, cutting in off the right-hand side onto his weaker left foot, doing basically what he normally does on the other side, a mirror image, and firing the ball into the far corner, which I initially thought was deflected, but I'm now willing to say that I don't think it was. What?
Sorry, I don't think it was. Is nowhere near it on that reverse.
But what was weird is behind the goal.
I really think it's just an optical illusion with
weird,
the angle.
But I agree, because I was there and behind the goal, and I thought it was deflected live. And then you saw the other one, and then it definitely wasn't. But anyway,
get your glasses on.
It was one only reading glasses. It was and then a second yellow for Lindsay, where I'm an Oxford fan, and I would say that I don't think it was second yellow. Yeah. Oxford fans absolutely convinced that it was. Preston fans convinced that it wasn't.
A foul's fine for that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know I don't know what part of that infringement necessitates a yellow card. He's just like,
it's really good from Harris, where he reads the ball, he intercepts it, he nutmegs Lindsay. Like, it's brilliant play, but I don't know. Yeah. Like, it feels like Harris is just very clever and basically nutmegs Lindsay and then runs straight into him. But I don't, who really cares? It was 2-1 at the time anyway. Oxford in the ascendancy, and then Greg Lee made it 3-1. Siriki Dembele came on for Matt Phillips earlier than would have been anticipated, as it was an injury, but was really good, really lively, worked incredibly hard off the board as well, which was good to see, because I know some of the criticism from Birmingham fans the back end of last season was that he was not someone you wanted in a relegation battle. So early signs good there. See how that develops. Greg Lee came on for Joe Bennett, who also went off injured and was very good. Like, it'll be, from an Oxford point of view, it was really pleasing to see how a game that started as if it was men against boys, as if it was a established championship side against a newcomer, basically a League One team, developed into Oxford being able to wrestle the initiative back and end up deserving their win. For Preston, they'll be really frustrated at the way that they weren't able to press home that early advantage. Really frustrated with Woodman for his positioning. Frustrated, I'm sure, with the referee for giving the red card. But at the end of the day, they weren't good enough for 90 minutes. And Hecky's got a bit of a job on his hands, I think, albeit if he manages to use this international break to make this North End side able to press in the way they did in that first 20 minutes consistently, then there was definitely some green shoots there.
Nice. Yeah, Derby beat Bristol City 3-0, which means that 16 of Derby's last 20 home league games have been won by the home side. They have a really strong grip on things at home. They seem to get a lot from their home fans. Of course, the first win of the season at home against Borough was massively helped by a through ball from the opposition player that gave them a really good look at goal, and then riding their luck a little bit with a really brave defending, but also you have to rely on the opposition losing their shooting boots when you give up as many shots as they did. And again, here against Bristol City, I think City were the stronger side for the first 20 minutes of the game, but Derby grew into it. They grew in confidence, and they ended up attacking really well. Got 2 goals from the centre of midfield, Goodmine and Ozo, with fairly similar sort of powerful strikes from the edge of the box. You've got those two along with Ibu Adams. You've got a midfield that is always going to be, you'd think, intensely combative, out of possession, fairly athletic as well, and that's got to be to their strength. But it's working relatively well at the top of the pitch as well, where Jerry Yates had a great game, where Mendes Lang is always able to impact things, particularly on the break. And Caden Jackson has scored a couple of goals early on in his Derby career, his goal-scoring record having been the sort of one sticking point in his career so far, but took his goal very nicely. So Derby just starting really well at home, having lost their 2 away games, albeit to very strong opposition, and a really good afternoon. Bristol City disappointing with sort of how much they just floundered in that second half when they were up against it. They didn't show much quality to get back into the game and deservingly lost. Borough beat Cardiff 2-0 in Cardiff, and Borough fans sort of feel for a couple of seasons and to start this season that the phrase typical Borough applies to a lot of the games that they don't win. But I'd suggest Cardiff had what they might consider a typical Borough game here, in that at 0-0 Cardiff had a couple of openings. There was one off the line by Ayling, which came off the inside of the post, trickled alongside the goal line. And then it was a set-piece goal and an own goal, and Borough leave 2-0 winners here. George, what do you make of these two sides at the moment? Not a lot in this game, but Cardiff have lost 3 of their last 4 games to 0.
Cardiff are the proper team right now who it feels like are just getting absolutely no luck at all.
Agreed.
I mean, watching Aaron Ramsey go so close twice, especially with the one where Ayling managed to play 1-2 with the post, and you could see his frustration. You could almost see in the body language of the second one that was the woodwork went over the bar. You can see him being like, when is this going to go in? Little did he realise it would be going in the wrong net when he finally managed to get the ball in the back of the net, where he scored the own goal for the second. And that kind of sums up their season so far. They are the team right now where I know you're not a massive Errol Bullock fan. I probably sit somewhere between you and the Cardiff fans last season who thought that he was the second coming. But right now they feel the prime club to me who might act on results when the actual reality is they are nowhere near playing as badly as the results suggest. They look prime to me to be the ones who might pull the ripcord when actually the manager isn't necessarily the issue right now, and they need to kind of sit tight, because if they carry on playing the way they are, things will probably turn out better than they currently look. For Borough, I find them quite difficult to understand right now. They got over the line here, having struggled to do so in previous games. Sometimes I think they look absolutely brilliant, but often that's when they go behind in games. Here, they went to Cardiff and they won the game 2-0, albeit weren't particularly convincing in doing so. I'm very intrigued by Aidan Morris, who's the 22-year-old who's come over from the MLS, who, he looks very lively, and he looks like someone who will, I think, score a lot of goals from midfield. But I've never really seen someone have and it's early days, I know, but his passing numbers and where he plays on the pitch are mad. Where normally, if you look at players who have kind of 95% pass completion rates, as he does, it's normally a player like Matt Grimes, someone who sits very deep, whose job it is to get the ball off the defensive unit and basically recycle it. Whereas Morris is someone who's playing higher than that, who's getting a lot of touches in the opposition box, a lot of touches in the final third, and yet still has an insanely high pass completion rate, and that is cool. If you've got a player who is consistently being able to find a teammate when they're playing that high, that's a skill set that you don't see very often. So he's definitely someone I'm looking forward to seeing more of. Yeah,
great afternoon for Borough. After this game and over the weekend, we had some really sad news that Sol Bamba passed away over in Turkey. And Bamba, of course, had spells with both Cardiff and Middlesbrough, had the most incredible football career, really, but also was known for being one of the great guys in football. And you can tell by the outpouring of grief and emotion and memories that you'll see from those who knew him, just what a special person he was. And only a few times, but we were able to spend some time with Sol working at Sky Sports. We also spent a day filming with him at the Cardiff City training ground one summer. And he's the sort of person that makes me believe that some people are just special. Like, he had time for everyone, and not just time for everyone, but also like seemingly enthusiasm for everyone. Like, these traits that are not inherent in everyone and are certainly not displayed in everyone, and perhaps decreasingly so, and just leaves such a mark on so many people. A life to be absolutely celebrated. And that was seemingly how he wanted to live, even in the last few years where things had been so difficult for him health-wise, celebrating his life and him as a person. And we wanted to add our thoughts to that.
For sure. I mean, he was someone who we first met, as you say, we did fixture release day with him on Sky Sports News. And it should be pointed out that I think you and I both feel generally pretty much all ex-pros we've ever worked with have been incredibly welcoming to us. We've seen very little of the kind of thing you might expect, where they can't really have these two kids we're not kids anymore, but two guys who've never played the game. We've seen very little of that. But in Seoul in particular, like, it felt like we kind of made a mate that day. Like, we spent a lot of time with him off set. He regaled us with incredible stories from what was like an unbelievable career. Like, he, to go from his first move in senior football was to go from PSG to Dunfermline and then work his way from Dunfermline through Hibernian to Leicester, then to Trabzonspor, a ridiculous spell at Palermo, where he may have only played one game, but a lot of his stories were from that spell, to Leeds at a crazy time at Leeds, and then obviously he found a home at Cardiff for 5 years, and then eventually at Middlesbrough. Like, he was someone who was universally popular wherever he played. He was someone who kept in touch with us. Like, I hadn't spoken to him for about 2 years, and I had a look yesterday, and the last WhatsApp I got from him was only like 9 months ago, just sending me his new number, and it was a personalised thing saying, "Hey George, this is my number, like, it'd be good to catch up soon." I hadn't spoken to him for 2 years.
I remember he asked for our numbers at the end of our day with him at Sky, and just made me feel $1 million. Just that. And
what's also nice that people may not know is that I remember very clearly when we interviewed him in Cardiff how highly he spoke and how emotively he spoke about Sven-Göran Eriksson, both as manager at Leicester and also as manager for Ivory Coast, which people might forget. So there's something nice there, I guess, that, after what's happened the last couple of weeks, hopefully they can raise a glass together. But amazing man, and I was just incredibly sad when I woke up yesterday morning and saw the news. So
very fitting that his last tweet, Sol, was last week, passing his condolences on to Sven-Göran Eriksson's family and loved ones, and sharing his experiences and how important his relationship was with Sven-Göran Eriksson. So just sending love to Sol Bamba's family and everyone close to him. What a man. A couple more wins in the Championship to tell you about. Norwich beat Coventry. Early kickoff on Saturday. Norwich's first league win of the season, first league win of the Torp regime. Very welcome, I think it's fair to say. Goal from their only shot on target. Borja Sainz smashing one in, picking it up sort of on the penalty spot with the aid of a deflection, but putting them ahead, and just generally a pretty good away performance, I think. Callum Doyle at left centre-back getting a lot of praise. Marcelino Nunez, is he going to be able to stand out a little more and become even more of a star in the absence of Gabi Sara? Perhaps. He certainly shows such quality on the ball, and the range of his passing, not just where he can put the ball, but outside of the right foot, 30-yard away swingers out wide, no issues there. As for Cov, a bit of glumness, I think. Has been a slow start to the season, also in the context of all the pre-season excitement, which we were very much a part of. I'm not particularly concerned. I don't think that the performances are great, and I can't exactly put my finger on why they would start slowly again. Of course, they are missing Ben Sheaf, and there's an expectation that when he comes back in the team, that the machine will start to operate better because of him being the fulcrum. We will find out. I think overall I'm willing to not get too down on their start to the season. And then a couple of other away wins, George. Luton 1, QPR 2. We watched this one, we had one eye on this one in the office on Friday night as we were doing deadline day. It was an incredible evening for those QPR fans in that pretty iconic Luton away end.
Yeah, it really was. It didn't look like it was heading this way at half-time. Luton taking the lead after what's been a really poor start to them. It felt like they very much needed this. Dunn putting through his own net after 18 minutes. But I have to say, after that, I was really impressed with QPR and the way they managed to get into the ascendancy in the game, get the goals through Madsen and Frey in quick succession, either side of the hour mark. But they were really good value for the win. Like, I thought they could have, in that period of time, Luton couldn't really get near them. It felt like they kind of suffocated Luton in possession for a lot of it, weren't able to get to advance the ball far forward. Yes, late on in the game, there were a couple of opportunities for Luton to draw level, and they'll, certainly the Taylor header over the bar was one. Adebayo had a chance that 20 minutes ago. There was another. They looked threatening, but I think it would have been unjustified had Luton managed to get an equaliser. Personally, on the balance of play, I thought QPR were sensational, and this was two teams who kind of really needed a win to kickstart their season, having struggled to do so. I worry for Luton now. It feels it's hard for them because they come down having been a Premier League side last season, having done so well as a Premier League side. So therefore, the aspirations or the expectations are so much higher than they were prior to them becoming a Premier League club. Yet, we talk about parachute payments and everything else, but the recruitment hasn't really been that of a club spending parachute payments. I guess the situation around the stadium may impact what they're able to do.
Until maybe the Mark McGuinness signing, which felt like a pretty chunky fee.
Yeah, of course.
Necessary for them.
And a shocking way for him to kind of introduce himself to the Luton faithful with a mistake for the first goal.
The issue that he had, that a few Championship centre-backs are having, is that Frey, who from January to the end of the season looked like one of the worst strikers in the Championship, now in his appearances this season,
the best,
playing like a sort of hybrid of Lyndon Dykes, Bayo Akinfenwa, and Fenomeno Ronaldo. Yeah, and obviously made a huge difference, like with both of the goals here. Stoke beat Argyle 1-0. Schumacher going back to Devon and leaving with all 3 points as well. I mean, this was a battle between Mann and Hazard, Manhoef and Hazard. Million Manhoef having 5 shots on target, Hazard saving the first 4 of them, some of them pretty impressively, and then the 5th one skidding inside the near post from the edge of the box to win it for Stoke. It was a game of spells. I would say Stoke were the stronger overall, particularly given the fact they were the away side here. 15 shots each and 7 shots on target each, but Stoke's of better quality. You look at the XG numbers on FOTMOB, that's very, very clear in the shot map as well. Argyle's attack seems to be mainly everyone stand and watch while Sissoko or Whittaker go Kobe Bryant ball and try and score cutting in from range, whereas Stoke, albeit Manhoef is still getting a lot of their volume up front, they've got a little bit more about them, and he does look like some player, that the little tricky winger. 2-1 wins. West Brom 1, Swans 0, Sheffield United 1, Watford 0.
I'll take baggy Swans because I think it's kind of time to start really taking notice of West Brom again, where there was so much pre-season negativity around Baggies, just purely in terms of the players that they were losing, and question marks as to why they were losing them, why they were happy to lose them, why they were bringing in Devante Cole, and there probably are still some concerns around squad depth. But honestly, like Carlos Corberán is able just to take a group of players and turn them into such a high-functioning team where, yes, they only won this game 1-0 through a decent Malumbi finish, but they were completely and utterly dominant. Again, 18 shots to Swansea's 6, 4 big chances to Swansea's 1. The XG number's 2.4, 0.46. Like, just constant pressure, constant ability to create chances. I still believe that because of Luton's clear issues, because I think there are still big question marks around Burnley right now. Sheffield United, it doesn't feel like a particularly strong group of relegated sides. I still think Leeds are very good, but it does feel like this is a great season for a Borough, a West Brom, a Coventry, a Sunderland, someone to step up and be a dominant force. And I don't see any reason why that can't be Baggies right now. Like the way they're playing, so solid at the back as all Corberán sides are, but just creating their shot volume, their chance creation is way beyond what we normally see from a well-organised Corberán team. I think he is, and I've said it for so long, like if you are a team at the bottom end of the Premier League, like you take Leicester, for example, with Cooper, and I think Cooper deserves a lot of credit. I think he's done an amazing job in the past for Forest. And I know they were linked with Corberán, but he is someone who I just think is so tailor-made to that job. And that's going to be their issue, is keeping a hold of him, I would have thought. But especially given, post-takeover, when you would hope, I'm sure Corberán would have hoped that he would stop having to lose players and be able to go out and invest. That hasn't been the case. But he's just an incredible tactician in terms of both elevating the individual performances of players, but also forming them into just a well-oiled machine, and that's what they are right now.
Yeah, and Blades beating Watford 1-0 on Sunday. Early goal, own goal from Bachmann after O'Hare got to the byline and tried to sort of squeeze out a cross, and just unfortunate really, sort of hit Bachmann and deflected back into his own goal. Sheffield United, I would say, deserved a 1-0 win. Watford had decent spells, but overall, Sheffield United clearly the stronger side. It's lovely to have Jez Raksaki back in our remit, under our umbrella. And from early on in this game, he was getting on the ball and doing what he does very well. Always seems to control the ball, trap the ball, get it under his control really impressively. And then from there, is such a dangerous dribbler and can go both ways. So keeps the fullback guessing, gave Larousse a really, really tough time here. But then you've got Harmer, you've got O'Hare still doing lovely bits and bobs as well. O'Hare in particular showing off his full range of like final third quality and just sort of out of possession impishness as well to win the ball back. So it is a lovely 11 that they've got. Sheffield United, it looks a little awkward with Harmer playing on this sort of inside left role, but I do think it's the sort of thing that he could grow into. And if you consider the other players around him, it's not the worst thing you've ever seen, put it that way. But I like to think they've still got quite a lot of growth to do, Sheffield United. Their issue is that the difference between their starting 11 and the quality of their bench is just absolutely massive. Has to be the biggest gap of any team in the division. And that's the sort of thing that surely will trip them up as they go, because injuries do happen, will happen, and could cause problems on that front. And then Burnley and Blackburn in the derby early on Saturday, 1-1.
It's one of my favourite ever Championship goals. That I think
Vyman.
Because I was watching the.
Have you seen the
first
vid
half
of the Burnley fans?
No.
Some of them went, way. They thought it was going over. It's absolutely amazing.
So I was on a train to Oxford watching the first half on my iPad. And I'm glad none of the Charlton or Reading fans saw my face when it went in, because it wasn't a face made for public. It was absolutely... I just couldn't... Because, you watch that game and for the first 15, 20 minutes, it was 22 minutes, I think, Wyman scored after. Like Burnley just completely battered Rovers. Like Blackburn couldn't really get out. The only opportunity, Vyman had a shot just over the bar early on. But apart from that, it was just relentless from Burnley. Like the best Scott Parker sides, they completely suffocated Blackburn. Their press was really effective. Brownhill looked like he was just a man possessed in that first 20 minutes. And it was actually, because Vyman's goal was so good, I think Foster's goal went under the radar. It was a brilliant move, like really good little flick from Brownhill, the quality ball in. I don't know what Rovers' two centre-backs were doing, letting Foster kind of walk in between them. But either way, brilliantly worked. But for Vyman... Like the bouncing ball coming across his body.
That ball was flirting with him.
But the technique to hit it the way that he hit it, like having to slice it across his body but get the power. And like it's so far above Trafford. Like it's just no question you can blame the keeper at all. Like we talk about unique goals. Like the way that he hits it, the trajectory of the ball, the way it goes in the back of the net, the way that they just hadn't really been able to lay a glove on Burnley all game, and in a derby. It is, just an incredible strike from someone who's quite enjoying their start to life as a Blackburn Rovers player.
And the Premier League had Declan Rice's red to talk about this weekend. We had Maktar Gay.
Yeah, I was tweeting loads about Maktar Gay. I think everyone thought it was about Rice. I think the for both situations, I think the same thing applies. Where like Maktar Gay already on yellow card, he is hauled down and he straight away goes to the ref and does the old. Give him a yellow.
Yeah.
It does it over and it's not once, it's like over and over again.
Yeah.
You've just got to give him another yellow. Like you have to. Like you can't, it's just the rules. And I know that it's pathetic. I know that if you're a fan of the club that player plays for, then your head explodes and you're angry and whatever else, but that's fine.
If he'd been listening to the pod in August last year, we talked about this loads, because it was a sort of, they were cracking down on it in particular at the start of last season, and loads of people were getting yellows for doing that sort of thing. And then I believe it was more or less moved out of the game because players couldn't afford to do it.
And that will happen just in the same way that, some players might think twice before kicking the ball away after what happened on Saturday. Next time a player in the EFL thinks I'm going to do that, they will be like, oh no, do you remember what happened to that Blackburn player? I'm not going to do that, thanks.
And to finish positively, he's been great fun.
Really fun. I mean, he's actually got a lot of red cards, I think, in his career as well.
Right, okay.
But
I meant fun performances.
Yeah.
I think he did he win the flick on in the build up to the Vyman goal. He was he was bouncing around up there, and he's just outside of the actual act of shooting, where he hasn't looked that great. He's looked like a hell of an addition, and they have, like they did last season with Smodics, but now in Vyman and others, they've got finishers all across the front line. So Gay's not necessarily needed to score the goals at the moment, but he looks like a real disruptor at the top of the pitch, now suspended for the next game.
4 red cards in 135 career appearances. Too many of that.
Okay, in League One, loads to get through. I'd like to start with Wrexham, who have started the season really nicely, haven't they? Really, really nicely. 3 wins. Their one draw was away at Bolton, 0-0. Objectively excellent result. They went to Peterborough and they beat them 2-0, and deservedly so. Looking really solid at the back, managing to contain this posh side who, at their best, always look very fluent going forward and very, very dangerous. But it's the quality of Wrexham's goals again that's standing out. The first goal, it's just this quick, incisive, like one-touch attacking play. They are somehow, and Parkinson should deserve a lot of credit for this, the work that he did over the summer with the attacking patterns in the middle and final third, but also these players as individuals. The alchemy is clearly very, very good because it's different guys involved each time as well. This time it was a beautiful touch from Dobson to play in Marriott to smash home to put them ahead against his former side. And then a set-piece goal as well. That they are a big side, Wrexham, less so than they were in the last year or two, but they still retain that height. They still like putting crosses into the box, and they like that, having that physical, aggressive ability to attack the ball, and heading home was Cleworth for 2-0. And you look at the stats so far for Peterborough, it doesn't look great in terms of defending set pieces. They are such a young team. They are quite a small team. And I do worry that that's the sort of thing where you can be really great in open play. You can be the better side in most of your games when it comes to creating chances from open play. You can let yourselves down if you're not super on it from set pieces. So yeah, after 40 minutes, it was 2-0 Wrexham, and Peterborough hadn't had a shot. Wrexham had scored with 2 of their 3, and they saw it out from that point. 3 clean sheets now for Wrexham in the first 4 games. It's been a fantastic start, you have to say. Birmingham got a win as well. They're on 10 points too, George, beating Wigan. Late doors, 2-1 win. The biggest deadline day signing of the whole EFL was Scott Wright.
Scott Wright, yeah.
Scored the winner.
Yeah, came off the bench to score the winner after Peacock Farrell let one through his legs. They took the lead early through Alfie May, who's got 4 goals now in League One. It's going to be interesting to see how Chris Davis plays both him and Stansfield in the same side. I guess you can play with them as a front 2, but it feels a little bit awkward.
And Lyndon Dykesky.
But no, yeah. I mean, ideally you want to play one of them with him, I would say. But I guess it's a classic cliche of a good problem to have.
Yep.
If you've got to wedge in your 15 plus £5 million striker in League One alongside the last season's top scorer and this season's current top scorer, it's an embarrassment of riches.
The old good headache to have.
Yeah.
Does that analogy actually hold up?
Good headache.
Have you ever had a headache and gone like, on balance, good one to have?
If it's been an amazing night.
Is that, yeah, you're willing to be like...
Well, if it's been a really good night, then
deserved it, earned it.
It's been a while.
Loved it.
Yeah. Like when we woke up in Colne.
Yeah.
That was good, wasn't it?
The Kurdish headache.
Morning of England, Netherlands.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
Yeah, you had a lovely pastry, didn't you?
Yeah. No. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. That was a good headache.
Good coffee. Good headache though. No, I'm still not sure I agree.
Okay, fine. I mean, this again was Birmingham being good and not great, I would say. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing anything in their actual performances to suggest that they are head and shoulders clear of everyone else in League One. I'm not seeing anything in their performances to suggest that they should be even money for the title, which I think they are now. It may come, and I think when you've got a new manager in with new ideas, who is probably going to be learning on the job and has every right to improve a team as they go, to make the winning start that they're making is obviously a good thing. But I think anyone who assumes that League One is over because Birmingham are winning games already is being a little bit premature. Like, yes, as I say, they were 1-0 up in this game, and Peacock Farrell should be making the save, and then they still would have been 1-0 up and wouldn't have needed Scott Wright to bundle home late on to make it 2-1. And yes, they've got a ridiculous bench when you look at the options that they're bringing on, but I want to see a little bit more in terms of like total dominance within games than we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Patterns and stuff, I'm seeing a lot to like, and I think we've seen on a few occasions, including the first goal here, how they are, when it's working, really able to like pull teams apart with their rotations in possession and with the confidence that they have on the ball. I guess it's probably right to believe that will keep improving as they grow in confidence and build their partnerships. Blues have been adding players throughout the window as well, and now they can kind of settle and hopefully click even further. I think I'm broadly a believer in what Chris Davis is doing at this point rather than a doubter. But I do take your point. You look at the individual games. There's not, outside of possession, they're not absolutely battering teams at the moment. Just quickly, Jay Stansfield, a reported £15 million, plus 5, plus 100k if they go up.
No one really knows where that 100k is
plus
going.
20% maybe to Fulham when they sell him. Biggest League One transfer fee ever. Loads of narrative, loads of discourse around it. Have your say. Is it disgraceful? How are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Will it make a difference to them? How good is Jay Stansfield? Some of the questions that people are asking.
I can't answer how they're doing it or anything like that. I'm also just not an expert in profit sustainability rules or FFP or anything and how that impacts League One. From what I can tell, they've got a couple of seasons till they have to balance the books, which is seemingly why they're able to do this. I think it's pretty rank, would be my if you're a Birmingham fan, I can understand why you wouldn't care and why you're happy to drink the tears of people who have issues with this. But, it's similar, I guess, to the way that, how did some Birmingham fans react when Derby suddenly had been overspending over a period of time and had been giving players long contracts to amortise the spend, and then it blew back in their face. I would let's not say anything where in a couple of seasons when you've got the mea culpas out. And I'm not saying that will be the case with Birmingham. The owners have clearly come in with a lot of money. And
worth remembering they sold Jordan James for about 7 mil.
Exactly.
They made some more money elsewhere.
For sure.
James, for example, is
under £1 million for
pure
Sriki
profit because he's an academy player.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not denying that at all. But it's just, I personally, I don't think it's very good for football. Basically, that you have teams who've just been promoted out of League Two who are having to compete in the same league with a club who are able to spend basically £20 million on a football player.
Yeah,
it's not. We want the need for an element of fair play or a level playing field when it comes to. It's why in horse racing you have handicaps. It's because it's that means that unless you're at the very top level where you're the best in the world, there is an element to which you want there to be a fair game.
Golf as well.
They're not at the top level, but socially, is League One like a social game? Maybe. Yeah. But in terms of the actual spend itself, what I find strange about it is that I've seen a lot of Birmingham fans say he's that good that he will, we'll probably still make a profit on him. And I struggle to really reconcile that because I don't understand. Like Jack Clark's just gone for 20 million to the Premier League. Morgan Whittaker was being valued seemingly south of 20 million. These are the best young players in the Championship, young attacking players in the Championship. So for Stansfield to, in my mind, to be worth £20 million in 2 years' time, what has to happen? Well, Birmingham have to go up this season. He has to play a big part in that. And then he's probably got to be their best player in the Championship and probably score like 15, 20 goals. And then maybe you're getting back to like parity with what you spent on him already. So I don't think there is a very strong argument for it being an investment in an asset. Similarly, sometimes you hear like, well, if we get promoted to League One, he's worth every penny. Sorry, if we get promoted to Championship, he's worth every penny. Again, I think when it's £20 million and it's kind of 50% of your actual revenue, or even more, like 70% of your revenue for a whole year, I struggle to make that tally. If anything, I'd say the opposite. Like if we don't go up, the financial burden that this could put on us makes it incredibly risky. So, yeah, all in all, I hate it, basically. I hate it. I love him as a player. I really like him. As I say, I can understand why as a Birmingham fan, you probably don't care and you probably are just happy that he's back. Especially when, as you said, from a pure footballing point of view, they've gone out and they've got Alfie May, who is someone who at League One level scored over 20 goals for the last 2 seasons and is already on 4 this season. And I don't really see how they're going to fit in the same team.
Yeah. And Stansfield as a player is interesting. He's clearly very, very talented young attacker. Probably his standout ability for me so far at Exeter and at Birmingham last season is his finishing ability. He's able to shoot powerfully, accurately, He has overperformed his XG over the last 2 seasons. When you see the sorts of finishes when he does score, you can understand why. He's an interesting profile because he's not massively physical in terms of being able to battle with centre-backs and sort of be a central focal point. It's hard to imagine him ever being that based on his frame and just his sort of tendencies as a player. Really smart movement, always dangerous on the shoulder. We saw the goal that he scored against Birmingham in the League Cup as a good example of that, getting on to peeling off the centre-back, running in behind and finishing. And it does make me think that he probably will play not as a striker for Birmingham. I think that Davies will find a way for him to play perhaps off the right of the attack, where at the moment the right back Laird is providing all of the attacking width, and so you can kind of cheat as that inside right. You can basically just take up positions in the box to kind of complement and supplement the number 9. So it'll be interesting to see how many goals he can score from that position. In modern football, in the Championship, for example, with Akpom and Smodics to a certain extent, you've got these sorts of players who aren't necessarily out-and-out number 9s, but still able to get and score a lot of chances. And I'm just interested to see how he develops within this team and over the next few years. It's obviously an unusual move for an individual player to make to drop down to League One when it seemed like Fulham were quite keen to use him and didn't really want to let him go. But
there's one other slight...
Hold on, he's got personal ties. Mrs. lives in Birmingham. His brother works for the club, according to some people in the know. Not sure what his role is.
Head of recruitment. I don't love, as a young player, that he's got this hanging over him, if that makes sense. I'm sure if he hits the ground running like he did last season, that'll be fine. But I don't really love it if he doesn't. Suddenly you're going to have, every weekend he's going to be targeted now as being this big signing. What I will say on the flip side of this is that I do, in something ugly, something beautiful comes. And I love that Exeter are going to get a big windfall from the son of Jay Sansfield, because that is a lovely story where obviously a player who died very, very young, and someone who is very dear to Exeter as City as a football club, and the fact that they managed to nurture his son into the footballer that he was. They sold him for big money then, but the fact that they're now able to get a nice payday off the back of his success is good.
Absolutely. Stevenage 0, Lincoln 1. Possibly the worst game of the weekend in League One. Only 7 shots to 3 and a penalty for Lincoln was the winning goal. Silly, really, from Dan Butler to dive in where he did. Finished off by Jack Moylan. Lincoln with 9 points from their first 4 games, which is a really positive start. They lost a lot of key players over the summer, but Skubala's results at the back end of last season were obviously excellent, and so far this season the results have been excellent as well. At Nathan Evans 94, good account to follow. Tweets some lovely EFL data viz, which is always welcome in our eyes on social. Paudie O'Connor, Lincoln centre-back, the only player across England's top 4 tiers to have recorded 4+ goal contributions already and won 35 duels so far this season. He also ranks in the top 10 for interceptions made amongst all players, and he picked up quite a funny second yellow card at the end of this game for what I imagine was an on-running battle with Pidge at set pieces. He got one last victory against Pierre Gianni with a big header right at the end to clear their lines under pressure, and then went a little far in his celebration of that fact, possibly leaving a little head in and picking up a second.
If you told me we were going to see a Paudie O'Connor Carl Pierre Gianni fight with the led to a red card, I'd have been so excited, and it ended up being one of the lamest things I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, not ideal for him to be suspended, given, as Nathan has tweeted, what an impact he's had so far this season. Crawley 0, Barnsley 3 was an impressive away performance and victory. Barnsley have now won both of their away games this season. Obviously haven't won yet at Oakwell, and this was just a bit of a battering. Big Donovan Pines scoring a header from a corner in the first half, and then kind of the Adam Phillips show.
Yeah.
Just so good at breaking forward in transition and being a goal threat. Hit the post, scored 2 goals, including a penalty, which he won as well.
I was thinking, do you reckon DKD was sitting in the stands watching that being like, no.
Well, yeah.
Why is this guy doing this now?
It's interesting.
How am I going to play?
Can Keylor Dunn and Phillips coexist? I think they probably can. Can Keylor Dunn and Adam Phillips exist and Stephen Humphreys, who also joined on deadline day, maybe.
But can that Adam Phillips that played on Saturday exist with Keeler Dunn in the team? Is my concern.
Maybe. I mean, I'm intrigued by Darryl Clark's formation at the moment, where he's basically he managed to start 3 players on Saturday whose natural position, I would say, is right wing back. It's pretty impressive. Like you normally play 3 centre mids or 3 centre backs. 3 wing backs, Barry Cotter and Corey.
Is that why Trips has retired from international football, because he's going to go to Barnsley?
Yeah. I think he might be from Barnsley. Kieran Lofthouse, Corey O'Keefe and Barry Cotter are all playing. Only one of them at right wing back, but making it work. Crawley very much second best here, and yeah, I'm excited to see how Clark approaches it. He's obviously got Cosgrove as the big target man. He's got Watters as the kind of on the shoulder poacher who doesn't offer a lot else, and then he's got Humphreys as the kind of free roll striker, just quite selfish but like quite dangerous at the same time. DKD as the sort of second striker who needs someone in front of him so that he can have the space to do his bits from just behind the striker. And then Phillips as well, breaking in from midfield. There's a lot to work with. He seems to have improved the defensive unit, which was kind of the main thing that he had to do. And Shrews, those Shrews fans, George, they needed a day like this. They deserved a day like this after the start to the season. They'd had a 3-0 win against Leyton Orient in what was a game between 2 teams that had no points from their first 3 games, and doing it in lovely style.
Yeah, I mean, the Bloxham with 2 is... I mean, he's someone who's clearly got a lot of potential. He's been playing since he was so young at Shrews. The first goal takes it and manages to turn the defender and fire it. A very, very good long-range goal. I loved their first goal. Combination of 2 lone players. O'Reilly from Villa with a brilliant ball through to Castledine, who makes the one-on-one finish look very easy. On loan from Villa and on loan from Chelsea. 2 players where... for a Shrews side who've lacked a bit of quality in the final third for a while now, having lost Tom Bayliss, who I think provided some of that in their best moments the last couple of years, they're going to be 2 very important players for them. So to see them combine the way they did, important, and then Bloxham with 2. I definitely didn't see them winning this game and winning it as comfortably as they did. And after a really difficult start to the season, I think that's an important result for them and for Paul Hurst.
Yeah, they didn't score 3 goals in a league game very often last season, maybe 3 or 4 times. And certainly even rarer was 3 open play goals. So really pleasing on that front. Orient, by contrast, really lacking ideas in attack. And just lastly, Castledine, who's on loan from Chelsea, as you say, son of former Wimbledon player Stuart Castledine. And his mum is Homes Under the Hammer presenter Lucy Alexander.
Incredible.
Shrews won him at auction at the end of the transfer window, and they won't regret that. A Dons fan, Wimbledon fan Tim Hansen telling me that Stuart Castledine also scored on his full debut as a professional 30 years ago for Wimbledon away at Coventry in the Premier League 1994.
Gone.
Bolton 0, Exeter 2. Hello. This is big. Not least because last season the same fixture ended Bolton 7, Exeter 0. That was a period where Gary Caldwell was under significant pressure. Exeter stuck with him, and they won't be regretting that now because they seem like a club and a team in really good shape, getting a lot out of a lot of players, in particular Yefeko at the back, who was excellent once again. Kamari Doyle, who scored a Ward-Prowse-esque free kick in the first half, him being a Southampton loanee rather. And then a goal from a set piece in the second half, tapped in the back post by Ali. So beautiful performance really from the away side. 21 shots Bolton had, but only 3 on target. And just something lacking a little bit at the moment. Is it vibes or is it something technical or tactical? Hard to say, but it doesn't look and feel great. And I'm, in general, an Ian Evatt believer, for sure. But I'm not sure he gets too many more 2-0 home defeats, George.
No. The 2 goals they conceded were a direct free kick and from a corner, which is mitigated a little bit. Collins hit the woodwork. I think it was one of those days where they weren't great, but everything that went wrong. What I did like is that for Doyle, that is the first free kick he's ever taken in professional football. Yeah, well, I mean, he hasn't played many games, and he just steps up and just rifles it. And what I love about it is if you watch it back, he is celebrating basically as soon as it leaves his foot from so far out.
Do you reckon Danny Andrew watched that and was like, uh-oh,
someone's coming for me?
Got a problem here?
That's a bit far out for Andrew. But great free kick. He's someone who I'm excited about. And the loanee from Brighton, he looks very good.
Rotherham 2, Huddersfield 1 was eventful. Eventful.
Yes.
Rotherham winning from behind at the point where they go 1-0 down, and they've just gone down to 10 men. No, hold on.
They went 1-0 up.
At the point where they went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
With
10 men.
Hold on.
Huddersfield went 1-0 up with 10 men.
Yeah, I was coming at it from a Rotherham lens.
Fine.
But I've confused myself.
They go 1-0 down despite the opposition going down to 10 men.
Against 10 men. They haven't won yet this season. There's civil war brewing.
Malik Wilks.
Yeah.
Like what? I mean,
I haven't seen him do that for ages.
If you look at the two areas on the pitch where he picks up the ball for both goals, it is absolutely ridiculous. The first one, he's 40 yards out on the left channel and beats about 4 players and is. I think it's a very soft penalty.
Never a pen.
Yeah, myself.
Hated it.
But even so, the ball carrying itself and the winning the penalty from Wilks deserves applause. And then the second one, he's basically on the right-hand corner flag and he plays a 1-2 and cuts inside and fires it in the near post. Like
reintroducing himself.
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't seen him do that for a while.
For a long time. And it's a shame because I was going to say that Josh Koroma's assist for the first goal was the moment of quality in the game, which will be lost because of what happened afterwards, where he managed to break to win the ball back, break down the right hand side, and get cross the ball in for the opening goal. Frustration. I'm sure. I mean, when they went down to 10 men, I think Mike Duff probably would have taken a point. I'd be very frustrated that they went ahead and came away with nothing. But it feels like a really, really, really big last 10 minutes that for Rotherham, because had they lost that game, having seen their Oppa go down to 10, it's proper panic stations.
Yeah.
But instead, Jonathan Clark-Harris has got his first goal. Malik Wilks has announced himself back on the stage. Things just feel a little bit easier now.
Yes, good home win for Reading again. 2-0 win against Charlton. And I think this game was going the same way as a lot of Charlton games this season, where, albeit Reading had sort of been huffing and puffing in the first half, they'd made most of the running, but they hadn't really pierced the Charlton back line, and it was 0-0. And it was probably just starting to peter, I would suggest, into the last half an hour, until Charlie Savage carried it forward and unleashed just such a sweet, powerful laser from 30 yards into the bottom corner. One of those goals that doesn't get as much love as it should because it goes in the bottom corner rather than the top corner.
Yeah.
Even though I think there's an argument, as someone who always tries to hit the ball too hard and regularly blazes it over the bar.
Yeah.
I think keeping the ball low, particularly from range, should be really celebrated. It's quite a hard skill to hit it that hard and that low.
Yes. Shows
excellent technique, which is what Charlie Savage has.
They obviously haven't played the game.
Say again?
Obviously, people who don't like it haven't played the game, have they?
No. Surely not. Never kicked a ball. Sam Smith iced it. Nice Adrian Akande assist. New name for us. Young player, as you'd imagine. Because Reading weren't able to add anyone. They did sign one player on loan in the transfer window. But the takeover did not get completed ahead of the deadline. The club saying that the complexities of the deal prevented that from happening. The takeover has involved the transfer of multiple properties, both physical and intellectual. In addition to these assets in question, the stakeholders involved are located across 14 time zones worldwide. That's too many time zones. If I was to be trying to negotiate a sale of a club and trying to get that pushed through, I think I'd try and limit it to 3 time zones max.
Yeah.
14.
14 is too many.
Can see what they're up
basically
against
every
there.
time that.
Yeah. Multiple local laws and legislation needed to be abided by. I mean, it all makes sense. It's also exceptionally tedious for Reading fans to be reading this when, the prospective new owner changed his profile picture to him standing in front of a Reading badge a couple of weeks ago, and you just think, like, mate, did you need to do that at that point? It's just like toying with the emotions of a fan base who've had those toyed with pretty significantly for quite a while. A defeat for Charlton, an all-timer from Nathan Jones post-match, saying, this ain't going to be a good interview because I am raging off my nut. And he was as well.
We should say that. I might say that on the betting show on Thursday.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Like that. FTFT Nappers on Twitter pointing out that his first game in charge with Charlton was away at Reading in February. Charlton lost 2-0. And since then, he'd only lost 1 game in 18. Back to the Madstad. Lost 2-0. Mighty Miller's adding, what a flourish this is, both goals in both the games were in the same minutes. 66 and 76.
Wow.
Quirks, man. Quirks. Bristol Rovers beat Cambridge 2-0. Promise Omakere at the double.
2 of the weirdest assists you're going to see in a game, these two.
Mm.
First one, is it Thomas with the ball?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's basically a case this where Gary Monk is trying to get Cambridge to play out from the back with players who aren't necessarily used to it, including Michael Morrison. And it means that when they are caught out playing out from the back, the defensive shape is an absolute mess. And I've never seen anything as ridiculous as the space that Omoshare is in, where they don't have a defence. Like he's not offside because the two fullbacks are kind of still wide, and I think the one out of shot who's at left back, although it might even be Morrison.
I think it's Morrison.
Is keeping him on.
Yeah.
And Omoshare is just standing in the middle of the pitch, and Thomas can pass it to him for a one-on-one finish. Ridiculous. And the second goal was the one that kind of went semi-viral on Twitter, even though I think the first one was funnier, where it was an amazing, incredible first-time delivery, amazing flicked assist for Omoshare to score his second. Bristol Rovers pretty good. I'm pretty concerned about Cambridge at the moment.
Yep.
Style might be a little bit better, but there's just very, very little substance whatsoever there. And they're not really able to impact games from an attacking standpoint, and defensively, as I say, they look a bit of a mess and a bit confused.
Yeah, 3 draws. Blackpool 2, Wycombe 2 was a really fun game. Blackpool under Richard Keogh's interim management, flooding forward, creating plenty here, entertaining their fans, which is definitely sort of objective number one in the last couple of weeks, but undermining themselves somewhat at the other end with some really sloppy defending. Wycombe sniping them and getting a point there away from home. Mansfield 1, Stockport 1, obviously two of the promoted teams from League 2 last season. Certainly on balance of play here and in the results so far this season, it's pretty clear that Stockport are kicking on and Mansfield have performed pretty well so far, but also did lose both DKD and Will Swan at the end of the window, which has been quite upsetting, I think, for their fans. And they certainly were second best here. But Hiram Boateng had scored from range, a shot that went under Corey Adai, his first error for a long time, and then Wootton equalising for Stockport. And Northampton 0, Burton 0 was a match that happened. Callum Morton hit the post in this one, and Hoskins drew a great save from Crocombe as well in the Burton goal. But 0-0 for the second straight game for Burton. Only 3 League 1 games next week due to international call-ups, which is a bit rubbish, that, isn't it? You're gonna have an international break. Currently, League 1 games are still slated to go ahead, and at the moment it feels like 75% of them are getting canned every single time, and I don't necessarily know why I think that's a big deal, but it's just frustrating more than anything. Does mean an absolutely unbelievable League 2 focus next week.
And also it means more midweek games, and I like the midweek games.
Okay, you like them. We're going to be doing a whole pod this year on midweek games. Under the lights for NTT20.com paid subscribers. In League 2, 6 away wins out of the 11 games that have been played. Got MK Salford playing on Monday night. First 3 rounds of fixtures had seen only 8 away wins out of 36 games. But it was the away sides that did the business on Saturday. One of the home teams that won, really bad link, didn't think that through, was Gillingham, who sort of did it again.
But the away team won the woodwork count.
Yeah, Chesterfield won all the stats,
and
Gillingham took home the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably given that Chesterfield looked like a pretty good team and that Gillingham went ahead fairly early, not a massive surprise to see that Chesterfield put the pressure on the early pace setters in League 2. It was a pretty ill-tempered affair. Mackenzie put Gillingham ahead. As I say, the crossbar, the woodwork was 3-1 to Chesterfield after that moment. Hit the woodwork 3 times. They were pretty good. They created decent chances, just weren't able to get the ball in the back of the net. Aymer was sent off for 2 yellows after an hour. Dunkley got a very weird red card, which I just think was never a red in a million years.
Yeah.
But it's like a looping ball. He put out his foot to control it and seemed to be blown up for it. Chesterfield will feel pretty aggrieved that they weren't able to get anything out of the game, which they probably deserved. But I'm really happy for Gillingham and Mark Bonner. I think because of the heightened expectations this season, I think because this is Bonner's first job apart from Cambridge, it was important that it got off to a decent start, and it has definitely done that. What I hope doesn't happen, like last season with Gillingham, is that because they make a good start, suddenly the perception is that they should be walking this league, because it's going to be very, very difficult, and it looks pretty competitive. I'm not convinced by the quality of the Championship. I'm not convinced by the quality of League 1. I came into League 2 thinking it looked poorer than previous years, and I think that's probably true, but it looks like there are quite a few good teams, of a similar level, maybe more than we anticipated before the season started. These two, definitely 2 of them. A big 3 points for Gillingham.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from this game is that I think Chesterfield will finish higher than Gillingham. I think that they're better. And I think they might be really, really good. And we will find out in the fullness of time. But I feel pretty strongly that the better side on the day didn't win. They're on 5 points. Gill's on 10 at the moment. But I'm pretty confident that Chesterfield will finish higher than Gill's from what I've seen so far. One team that's really impressing us and everyone is Matt Sadler's Sadlers. Also beating Cheltenham 2-1. And there's a lot to point out here. I know there's one player in particular that you're excited to talk about. So I'll talk about some of the other stuff that excited me. They've got a really nice... they've got incredible defensive stats. We know that. They've only faced 4 shots on target in their 3 games so far, which is incredible. Defensive shape and discipline. But they've got nice patterns that I'm starting to see emerge. I'd sort of question their ability to create chances regularly and maybe leaning on set pieces a little bit too much for my liking. But saw a couple of times in this game watching the highlights, they've got this really nice repeatable move. I talked about Taylor Allen the other day. He's the left centre-back, but he's really good at stepping into the final third and really good at deep crosses towards the back post. And what you'll see is the ball out wide to Gordon, the wing-back, who'll be right out on the touchline. You'll often see Lakin or perhaps one of the strikers making a run sort of in the half space, trying to pull the defence to drop a little bit deeper and create a pocket, basically in that inside kind of position. And then Taylor steps forward to receive the ball and then swings in the cross to the back stick. It looks like a really nice little move that's not very hard for them to regularly complete. Quite difficult for the opposition to stop because you have to track those runners and you've only got a certain amount of players in certain areas of the pitch defensively, and you just get repeatedly this cross from Allen, who's got quality on his left foot, into the back stick where you've got Jamil Matt waiting, but also coming in round the back, the right wing back George, Mr. Connor Barrett.
Yeah, he's one that's caught my eye already this season. I mean, clearly he got 2 assists here, and both of them just show, having looked back this morning and watched some of his performances at Fylde over the last couple of years. He's 22 years old. He's just a very, very aggressive attacking right wing back who just consistently tries to go on the outside of his fullback and get crossed into the box. And he has the quality delivery to go alongside it as well. He looks to be very, very obvious to me as someone who is going to take to this league like a duck to water, who's going to be a really big attacking outlet for Walsall in the way that they play, who players like Jamil Matt are going to very much enjoy having playing inside him, outside him, because it's early days. You know, it's a fair step up from National League, but it looks like a really smart bit of recruitment. And yeah, he's someone to look out for. Same with Jamie Jellis, I think, who looks pretty fun as well. Who they brought in from Tamworth in January when he was injured, so he's kind of making his first step up into the first team now. Just like an all-action midfielder who is incredibly energetic and has some quality on the ball too. So like Tamworth and Fylde, 2 players who stepped up in their early 20s to League 2 level and looking pretty strong. That is good recruitment. I think Walsall are a team to keep an eye on. As I said, I think the teams that we expected to be good in League 2, Gillingham, Chesterfield, Bradford, Doncaster, MK Dons, like there's obvious signs that they are good, but Walsall is certainly one of those that I didn't anticipate would be one. But right now look as good as any.
Yeah, if you look at FOTMobs, big chances created in League 2 this season. There's Luke Molyneux and Dan Crowley at the top, unsurprisingly. In 3rd and then 5th, Taylor Allen and Connor Barrett, the 2 that we've just spoken about. Those 2 teams, Gill's on 10, Walsall are on 9. Notice we still haven't spoken about the league tables yet. Just want to make that clear. We're 4 weeks in, and as we said, we haven't talked about the league tables yet, which I like. Barrow are on 9 points as well, going well, beating Harrogate in Harrogate. Harrogate will probably remember this one as Barrowgate.
Yeah.
That worked better written down.
Yeah.
Well, it worked really well written down.
Well,
Barrowgate.
It would have been good if you'd said it the right way the first time. You said Barrowgate instead.
Well, because that's... Yeah.
You should have...
Because you don't say Harrogate.
Yeah, but you should have done that. No, you didn't have to do the weird row there. If you called them Harrogate... And then you said Barrowgate, it would have worked.
Okay.
And you could have reverted to calling them Harrogate forever.
Look, if we don't have things to improve on, we might as well be dead.
You're not perfect.
Exactly. It was a set-piece goal. Jackson corner, Eccleston header. Jackson having signed from Huddersfield, Eccleston on loan from Huddersfield, the Terrier duo.
Hud Army.
My second favourite Terrier duo after Nettle and Mouse, my 2 Jack Russell Terriers. A couple of chances for Harrogate in the second half. Farman Had to do some emergency services work at the back there for Barrow and made some good saves, as he has done all season. They've only conceded 1 goal. He's faced 10 shots on target, so his save percentage excellent up to this point. But overall, this is one that sort of doubles down mainly on my concern for Harrogate's performance levels, but also that Barrow are, having transitioned from Pete Wild to Stephen Clements. They seem to have retained a lot of the good out of possession structure and discipline that they had under Wild. In fact, they don't look that different to how they did last season at all, I would say. I'm sure there's some more subtle tweaks, but overall, I think still...
You're saying Pete Wild's not all that then?
No.
Even money favourite currently for the Blackpool job.
Up for it. Morecambe 0, Newport 1. Newport also on 9 points. Hell of a start to the season for them, given the context, given the new era, new Newport. 9 points, Newport, if anything.
You put something in your hand. That's one for the...
Something about Newport.
One for the YouTube viewers, that wasn't it?
I've always had something about Newport. It's something that gets me going with the Amber Army. Can't explain it.
Yes. I mean, they have made a pretty fun start to this new era where there was a lot of unknowns. I wouldn't say this was their best performance of the season so far, up against a Morecambe side who for the most part have been pretty poor this season. I would say this is a tale of 2 keepers, with Stuart Moore making a massive error to let Aaron Wildig in early on, and then Nick Townsend basically just doing loads of saves the rest of the game to keep Newport ahead. I think Morecambe fans can take a lot of heart out of this performance compared to other ones. I think it was in our weekend notes around the quality of the teams that Morecambe have played. Currently was it first, second, third and fifth. At this stage of the season, I would say part of that, the reason for that is because they're playing Morecambe and have beaten them, which has an impact. But
points make prizes.
But at the same time, this was a much better display. And if Morecambe are going to stay up this season, more home performances like this should yield points, and that's where they're going to have to pick up a lot of points, because I can't see them having much joy away at some of the league's better teams. Yeah, a tale of 2 keepers is spot on there. Nice twist on the Dickens classic. Doncaster Rovers and Port Vale came into the season with great expectations. Donny living up to them at the moment. A 3-2 win against their former manager Darren Moore. That would have tasted sweet, wouldn't it? And just lots to like, as is often the case when Doncaster play well and score goals and win games. They seem to have... Molyneux just kicks the ball so sweetly.
Yes, but dig a little deeper than Luke Molyneux's sweet left peg and you'll see an assist from...
His sweet right peg.
An assist from Billy Sharp. Yeah. Billy Sharp's doing that thing where you drop down the levels and you go from being pure bagsman to like kind of false 9 who can score and will score and did score. But will also drop in, receive the ball, spin the defender, float a little ball over the top for Molyneux to smash home for 1-0. Gibson playing really well off the left, set up Molyneux for his second, Donny's third. Just the better side and winning here, and I think it reflects that they are in great shape, and Vale, for whatever reason, are not really. It was another bad day at the office for them. Did score their first open play goal of the league season, which was worth the wait. Nice goal from Crowsdale breaking forward from midfield. Some good passing and movement, but we haven't seen nearly enough of that for Vale. And I've always struggled to watch Darren Moore teams in attack, by which I mean I've always struggled to see what is he as a coach and a tactician adding to this attack other than good players doing good things, as was often the case at Sheffield Wednesday. And when I watch this Port Vale side, he can't say he doesn't have options. They signed 3 strikers and 4 attacking midfielder or wingers over the summer. They can't all play, which is causing a bit of a logjam selection-wise, and therefore they don't seem to have much rhythm at the top of the pitch at the moment, not much connection between the players. Need to see a lot of improvement here because it's not very impressive at all. And I was pretty sad to see that they sold Bailey de Pepper to Southampton as well late on deadline day, the England under-18 international. So impressive for Vale to bring through a player of this calibre. I was excited about the minutes that he got last season in League One and the goals that he scored and the performances that he put in, and I wanted to see him be given the opportunity to show himself to be like an excellent League Two striker even at such a young age. Instead, they just bought a ton of strikers and he's been sold to Southampton, and we probably won't see Bailey de Pepper for a couple of years. And he might be back on loan, maybe in League One in like 2 seasons.
Yeah.
It's not my favourite part of the game. Wimbledon, 1. Fleetwood, 0.
This game kind of all happened in the first half an hour, really.
Packed it in.
Wimbledon, some early pressure, then one of the most insane goal line scrambles, not even goal mouth scrambles, goal line scrambles, with Fleetwood unable to force the ball over the line.
Absolutely incredible save from Goodman, wasn't it?
Yeah. First bit. How many?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. And a couple off the line as well.
Yeah.
There was one moment where one of the Wimbledon defenders put his hands on his head, thought it had gone in, then realised it hadn't. Had to keep scrapping.
In camera one, you actually lose the ball for about 2 seconds. Yeah. It could be over the line, might not be. Absolutely no idea.
And then a really nice finish from Nurfield to make it 1-0 after 28 minutes. And then after that, it kind of settled down a bit. Wimbledon had a couple of chances late on to make the points safe, but didn't take them. But, given that I think Fleetwood are a very good side, personally.
Here he is, the Fleetwood guy.
Well, I'd say Fleetwood and AFC Wimbledon are 2 others of the teams that I didn't necessarily think were going to be as good as the other ones. I now think are very good.
Yeah.
But
throw enough darts, mate, you'll end up looking very some of them will go up.
14 teams can win League 2 this season. I think this was 2 very good sides against. The perception might be this is 2 mid-table teams up against each other. I don't think that's the case. I think this is 2 very good teams up against each other. And Wimbledon did well to get all 3 points. I mean, we're gonna have to come up. We've had the seeded batch in the past and things. What are we going to call League 2? Because I think this is a really interesting edition of a league that I can't really remember before, where it's just loads of good teams.
Quite a dense, like rye.
Dense rye.
Yeah.
Dense rye.
Could be.
I've never heard anyone call anything that before.
Let's think about it. That could be it. That could be
rye.
it.
Something to do with rye is good though.
Hell of a week for Wimbledon, beating Cheltenham away last Saturday, beating Ipswich on penalties in the cup, and drawing Newcastle in the next round, which is very exciting for them. And another win here, 0s and 1s.
Dark rye.
0s and 1s, boys.
Like the a dark horse.
Rye of League 2.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
While that was happening, I was 11 miles away, if you were to walk it, 4 hours, 5 minutes. If you're interested in ever walking from Wimbledon to Bromley, that's where I was, where I watched Crewe win their first game of the season. In fact, I watched Crewe score their first goals of the season, and I watched Crewe come from behind to beat Bromley, which was pretty impressive. And famously, for those who listen to the show that we put out every Thursday, not what we saw happening. Particularly when Bromley in the first 2 minutes put together a lovely attack that saw Lewis Lee bounce a 1-2 off Michael Cheek and smash it into the roof of the net to put Bromley 1-0 up too early, was the consensus. Everyone's been saying it. Everyone at the ground said it. Andy Woodman said it. The Crewe fans have said it. Bromley scored too early.
I said it as well.
You've been saying it all weekend. So it's been getting quite annoying, actually.
Yeah.
Talking about something else, mate. Because they really didn't offer anything after that. And I guess the assumption is, or just the acceptance is, that when that happens, the psychological element where you have something to defend basically overrides the actual instructions or your normal game plan, and somehow makes you really passive and not want to make mistakes. And that's a shame, because it was quite a poor game. Crewe weren't particularly good until the last 20 minutes. They took their time to warm up as well, and I think they realised with like 20 minutes to go that this Bromley team weren't offering a huge amount, and if they got their act together, they could come back and win it, and they did. Sub Taberner whipped in a great set piece for Demetriou to finish, and that just kind of grew the confidence. And I loved the winner, because Bell had chucked on a lot of attackers. He had Hemmings and he had Bogle up top together. He had Lancaster on the pitch. He had Chris Long on the pitch. And going level, you'd almost think you're in between a rock and a hard place, where you are away from home, you're probably happy with the point, but you've got all these attackers on the pitch, so you're not probably quite sure what sort of mentality you should have. But the winning goal was like the front four dream, basically. Long goal kick forward. Bogle wins the header, and Hemmings latches onto it. Hemmings secures the ball, lays it back to Bogle, who carries it forward a bit, lays it out wide to Lancaster, who cuts in. Bogle, Hemmings, and Chris Long have all made good runs into the box, and Long's free at the back post to head home. So it was just in what's been a really poor start to the season for Crewe, that was a really good goal. You have to hope for them that it gives them some confidence and just loosens things up a bit, because it wasn't a classic performance. It was a massive win for them, and it was a nice place to visit, I will say, Bromley. Nice place to have a drink before the game, half-time.
Good bar at the stadium?
Great bar. More than one good bar at the
Wow.
stadium. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, and terraces. It's always nice to stand and watch.
I hope Andy and Freddie had a nice chat and consoled each other after the game's on. Do you reckon, how XG is basically taking long shots out of football?
Sure.
Maybe it's scoring too early. Like, can you see a time in 10 years where, just don't try and score first 10?
Yeah.
Or like Lee scores and he's got his head in his hands. Crew starts celebrating.
Yeah, too behind. Yeah. It's sort of one down from that is how there are some teams that are so much more happy out of possession than in possession.
Yeah.
If they have kick-off, they just kick for touch and then just get in their shape.
That pretty happens.
It does happen, yeah. Pretty bleak, but a bit of fun. Carlisle 1, Tranmere 2 was...
Bit of news.
Yeah, it's led to a is it a sacking? Is it a departure? It looks like a sacking.
Departure.
Looks like a departure. Paul Simpson. 3 Carlisle promotions on his CV. Club legend, as a player and a manager. But from all the fans that I've seen, consensus is we are sad, but this had to happen.
He had to go. Yeah, I mean, again, this feels like a slightly strange game to make this decision upon. Tranmere had 4 shots and they scored 2 of them. One was an unbelievable strike from Amari Patrick, kind of similar to Goodrum's, I would say.
Yeah, that was so nice. He'd obviously scored the goal for Carlisle in the playoff final when they won promotion under Simpson.
And he was very good here. Like, he scored both goals and he very nearly got an assist with a brilliant run later on in the game. But yeah, 4 shots from Tranmere in total. It feels like a reactive to a result, maybe. I mean, I know the trend obviously isn't particularly good, but if you look at Carlisle's general trajectory, I find it hard to believe that, again, this is what I always say, if you made a list of like the key 3 reasons why they're on so few points this season, is Paul Simpson one of those 3 things? Like, I would find it hard to believe that he is. But what I would say is that they have new owners. To when Simpson was appointed, sometimes it's no bad thing, I think, for the owners to have someone that they appoint in charge, because it means there's probably a more conducive working environment for everyone involved, where the club hasn't immeasurably changed compared to when Simpson was hired, and similarly they will have an environment or have a relationship with the person, whether he is their person, which can't be a bad thing. And also, when you look at the amount of money that Carlisle's owners have spent on recruitment and players since they brought in, it would suggest to me that they'll probably make quite an ambitious appointment. I think they probably will be going into this thinking that they want to attract someone of a very high calibre. So even though I think it's harsh and sad that they've decided to go this way, I will only judge it when I see what comes next.
I mean, I think it's a great job for someone to get this.
Yeah.
There is a large squad with a lot of individual quality, but I think also quality in almost all the sort of key pockets of the pitch, from centre-back to central midfield to the striker options as well. There's a ton to work with in the squad, and I think if the new manager can get the sort of management of the energy of the club right and give a little spark, which I think it's there, that the fans will buy into something pretty quickly, because I think the general vibe has been so poor for like 12 months or so. And then if they can get a little tactical style set up nice and early that brings out the best in some of these players, I do think it's a great job for someone to get. 2-2-1 wins to finish us off. Grimsby 2, Bradford 1. Set-piece bundle got Grimsby ahead through Danny Rose. And then Jason Daddy Svanthorsen scored a really fun goal, didn't he?
Yes.
Really, really fun goal. Fresh off being selected as my favourite transfer over the whole EFL summer for a special YouTube video that we did last week. Svanthorsen, really busy attacking player. They signed from Breiðablik in the Icelandic Premier Division. Showed off what he can offer, coming in off the right side, good ball carry, and then getting inside the defender and finishing into the near post. So really impressive performance this was for Grimsby, and a good win. That's 2 home wins to go with their 2 away defeats so far. Notts County beat Swindon 2-1 at Swindon. David McGoldrick scored 2. I can't believe I'm going to start with like a negative.
No.
He actually hasn't done this as much in a Notts shirt as I thought he would.
I thought we'd see this the whole time.
This being him getting the ball in the edge of the box, just curling it into the far corner.
Scoring.
Twice in one game.
Scoring, man.
Bit of fun.
If you're a Swindon fan and you're watching your team put in their best performance of the season so far, by quite some way, and just twice get undone by David McGoldrick picking up the ball 35 or 25 yards out and just hit fine in the corner.
The noise on the highlights.
That is going to send you home really upset.
Yeah, well, what you've just described is you can listen to it back on the highlights. When McGoldrick scores, there's that sort of half second for the away fans at the other end of the ground to be heard, and in that half second, you just hear a lot of Swindon fans just going like, Oh.
Yeah.
It's an amazing noise. They had gone ahead through the big switch, Gavin Kilkenny. He's got to be really good for Swindon, doesn't he?
It was a great goal.
I know his championship appearances for Bournemouth are now, 3 seasons ago now. But he's just he's a good player.
Yeah.
A good football player. A good football man, probably, as well. And now he plays for Swindon. And I think he's probably going to be really good for them. So there you go.
Nice man.
But not a great start to the season for Swindon. Accrington and Colchester drew 1-1 here. Ben Goodliff equalising quite late for Cole Ewan, cancelling out a Kelsey Mooney goal. And we got Milton Keynes playing Salford tonight live on the box. That concludes this week's Monday Pod.
Podcast.
Once you're saying Pob, it's time to go. Pub? No.
Monday.
Not on a Monday.
You
Thank
told
you very
me
much.
this morning that it's wine month for you.
So well, the name of the month is gluten-free September.
Yeah. There are lovely gluten-free options.
The sort of subheader is wine month.
Okay, fine. Yeah. It's interesting because you said you had a bad bagel this morning because you were going gluten-free. Whereas in my mind, if I'm going gluten-free, I'm just not going to eat bread. Like I'm not going to quit gluten and immediately going for a gluten-free option.
Yeah. My wife wanted a bagel.
Fair play.
And
she loves that place.
Yeah, she loves that place.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe the quality of the contents will be enough to override the 90% just... Well, it's not even bread, is it? I don't know what you call it.
Did you consider a naked bagel?
That was horrible. Naked bagel. Just
the filling.
That would have been difficult to eat. Thanks for listening to the Monday Pod, guys. Thank you to FOTMob for sponsoring FOTMob Corner. Hope you enjoyed it this week. Next week, there will be a serious focus on League 2, as 9 of the 12 games going ahead, I think it is, are League 2 games this weekend. So join us next week for a big old deep dive into the dark rye.
The dark rye of League 2.
Thanks and go well.